Are you sick of no age statement whiskeys? Because I'm not. I'm going to try this one. But this is going to be a weird one to get through because it's complicated, all right? And this is long and it might be a little ranty, but I got thoughts. I know that comes as a surprise, but I got thoughts. So first, remember, this is the foundation for this talk. In all of whiskey history, we are promoted to by what matters to the producer. And when it's promoted well enough, the consumers believe it and then now take it on as the new normal. These are the rules. This is how it is. This is what's real. I know because I went to a tasting and they told me this is what matters. I read it in a magazine. I saw it on the shelf. And that has been going on since the 1700s, 1800s. This is not new. So in the early days of whiskey, it was just, hey, that farmer's real good at distilling. If you got extra grain, bring it to him. He makes better stuff than the rest of us. And that was pretty much it. And how did you judge it? Because people liked it or didn't like it and they told each other. That's it, right? And so that's sort of a trusted source approach. Ooh, interesting. This is way more drama than I was expecting. Okay. I'm going to let that sit for a second. Okay, then we start aging in barrels. And we did it first for the purposes of transport. And then it actually impacted things. And we went, oh yeah, that's good. We should do that on purpose. And then as soon as there was enough whiskey that was intentionally aged in barrels that became the new norm, all the promotion from distillers started to turn into aged whiskey. And this was in Scotland, this was in America in the 1800s and late 1700s. Aged spirits started to get talked about. As soon as it became norm to put things in a barrel, people were like, oh, you gotta have the older stuff. And in America, you start seeing the origin of names like old this and old that, because that became a marketing shtick, right? So, grain in the 1800s, late 1800s into early 19 single digits, grain whiskey shows up in the mid 1800s, and then there's a war between the malt guys and the guys using column still grain product, and they both go about telling the public what's real, and people took sides. Oh, you know what's real? That malt whiskey's real. That's real whiskey. And then you got the grain guys writing entire marketing campaigns going like, no, ours is purer. And it doesn't give you a hangover, and it's a cleaner spirit, it's healthier, it's better for you, right? And then people quoted those things. Oh yeah, it's this. Oh yeah, it's that. Well, that doesn't come from people drinking things and doing fair A-B comparisons and holding things up and going like, well, this, not that, this, not that. We have scientifically decided that this is the accurate. Nope, that's not how that works. Marketing people write things, they talk about it enough, consumers listen, consumers repeat it, it becomes industry standard. So, after a while, grain and blended scotch became the thing, and there was so much more blended scotch than there is, and still to this day, single malts. We started marketing not around age statements, but around quality chivas and the royal appointment, a royal warrant to create whiskey for the this group or that group or the parliament, and then that gets marketed. Oh yeah, this is that, and age statement whiskey in the malt is there, but it's not king. And then every once in a while you get some like the blended scotch guys started to throw out like this is blended scotch and blended malt, but it's all at least 15, and then but only because they had it, and then they start talking about it in other people, and then in America you get a point where the age statement changes. And minimum or tax purposes, it changes. You could hold on to whiskey longer for tax purposes. And as that increased, you didn't have to pay taxes until 8 months. You didn't have to pay taxes until a year. You didn't have to pay taxes until 3 years. Oh, wait, you don't have to pay taxes until 8 years. And the longer producers had to sit on it, the older it got. Well, here's another thing that happened that most people don't realize. As bourbon and the big bourbon producers started to sell their spirits out into the rest of the world, they ran up against age statement Scotch and age statement Irish whiskeys. And 6-year-old bourbon sounds great, 8-year-old bourbon sounds great, but not up against 15, 16, 21-year-old Scotch. And so bourbon started showing up in all these international markets. And there's a 1-to-1 4-year-old next to a 12-year-old, but the American whiskey is going to be way more expensive because it's imported. That's not going to fly. And so what do you see around those? You see the big bourbon producers dropping age statements off of any of their bourbons. Why? Because they're going to promote it as Maker's Mark, quality bourbon, straight bourbon whiskey. They're not going to put a number next to that, because when you put a number on it and it's sitting next to Dalmore 12 or Glenfiddich 12, consumers who don't know are going to go like, well, 12 is obviously a better whiskey than a 4-year-old whiskey, but that's not how that works, right? And so then we get all of American whiskey is this way. And I always find it ironic that people flip out about no age statement Scotch, but have no problem with the vast majority of American whiskey being no age statement product. Why? Because we've been trained by the American consumer has been trained that the quality of the product is the thing that matters. And age is kind of cool, but it's a novelty. Now, we also created a huge demand in Scotch, and people are running out of stocks. And so it might have been easy to create a 12-year-old or a 15-year-old, and now it's not. And so what do you have? Well, we've got some no age statement releases to sort of help drive some income through things that don't have to have the number 12 on them. And that's the explosion of Scotch, no age statement whiskey, NAS, like this. Now, actually, I don't know that this has, yeah, it doesn't have a number written on it. It's just a marriage of, okay. So, let's talk about Glenmorangie, A Tale of Tokyo. So the idea is this is a bourbon and sherry classic Glenmorangie, also blended with Glenmorangie whiskey that was finished in Japanese Mizunara barrels, which Mizunara is a Japanese oak that showed up around World War II when it was harder for Japan to get barrels. I don't know why. Just a small disagreement happening in the world made it harder for them to get barrels from, you know, the UK and America. But they stumbled into Mizunara, a Japanese oak, and it has a very different flavor profile. And as Japanese whiskey exploded, the world got introduced to Japanese oak and Mizunara, and you started to see all these other distilleries going, hey, let's do some Mizunara finishes. And so that's what this is. It's a mix of the classic Glenmorangie mixed with the Mizunara Japanese, and they worked with a really famous artist, Yamaguchi Akira. I'm probably not pronouncing that correctly. Anyway, to create all of the artwork and bring that to life on the art side of things, which I think is really cool. I love when Compass Box does that. I love when brands work with artists. Still Austin here in Texas does that a lot. Milam and Green does it a lot here in Texas, where they work with artists to create custom designs for releases. Balcones does it. I'm a big fan, and so I think that's cool. On the nose, this one's still jumping out at me. I'm looking for that chocolate orange. That's like my favorite hallmarker of a classic Glenmorangie. And that's that sort of Terry's orange, which is a chocolate, dark chocolate and orange combo. It's not dark, but to me it's dark chocolate and orange combo on the nose. But there's also some weird kind of outlier spiciness to this nose that makes me think baked cinnamon or like baking spice. And it's springy and spicy. Black pepper, maybe? And then behind that, a dense, heady sponge cake with like a liqueur. Oh, that's really pretty nose. That's a really pretty nose. I like that a lot. Wow, this might be one of my favorite no age statement Glenmorangie noses. Like of all the ones, this one's just really magnetic. Okay. Ooh, it's a little more thin than I was hoping. The nose is so deep and rich and heavy-handed in a good way that I was looking for that on the palate. But what I got was this like blush of sweetness and sort of, but then like a really dried white wine switching gears into a spicy, peppery, zesty kind of pow, 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 spiky. But the mid-palate never really filled out. And so it's this thin, sweet journey ending in sparkle and spice. Yeah, I'm gonna add a little water and see if that opens up the mid palate a little bit. But I really want more density to this than I'm getting in the palate, but I still really love the nose. A lot. Okay, I'm gonna let that sit for a second and I will remember to get back to it, I promise. So why am I fine with it? Because what I like, now I'm not gonna talk about the people who are strictly dropping age statements to go for money grabs, because here's the thing, I don't know. I don't feel I'm the right person to judge whether I think something's a money grab. I wasn't there in the room. I wasn't there blending it. I wasn't there working on it. I wasn't there having conversations with the brand development and the forecasting team who was like, no, this is amazing. No, screw it. We need it 10 times as big. Oh, okay, that would feel to me like a money grab. It's like, guys, we really need to bump up third quarter. Let's come up with a random bottling. I don't know those things. And so I'm never going to walk into a room and go, that's a money grab. Because that's a pretty strong statement. And I've been on the receiving end of it when it could not have been more wrong. And so I'm never going to make that. And so do I have a problem if it's a money grab? Yes, absolutely I have a problem if it's a money grab. Do I feel I'm a fit person to judge whether it is? No, absolutely not. Not unless I'm working on it myself. And even then, I don't know how much I would be willing to say. I just stopped working with that if I could. So I'm going to assume always that someone stumbled onto something magical or someone had a creative idea. What if we did this? Wouldn't it be cool? And then everybody on the team was like, yes, let's try to create that. That would be really fun. And then they put all their efforts towards creating something unique and cool and magical. And they decided to leave the age statement off because it is a fact that consumers will see an age statement and make value judgments before giving something a shot. That is a fact. That's why E150 coloring is a thing. That's why chill filtering is a thing. It's just a fact. And tough luck, man. Tough luck. If that's a problem for you, I understand why it's a problem for you, but honestly, tough luck. You're going to have to move off of that. That's a lost battle. And I want more people drinking whiskey. So I want people who aren't normally drawn to things to be drawn into it. Because I think we should all be drinking more whiskey and less other things. But I think because the no age statement has freed producers to chase interesting adventures, we as consumers have gotten the chance to try things that we never would have been able to try if it hadn't have been for the freedom that that expectation or lack of expectation has given us. And so I am grateful to that. And like, take it for what it's worth. I know that like there are plenty of Scotch reviewers and whiskey reviewers out there who feel very strongly in the opposite direction, and more power to them. Everybody gets to have their opinions. That's mine. So if you ever want to know, I'm always going to judge a no age statement whiskey based on whether I like it. And I don't give a shit whether it's no age statement or not. Now, on the other hand, grabbing a bottle that says 25 years on it, I am not immune to that. I think that's pretty cool too. But it shouldn't be our only marker. After a little water, it got sweeter and softer and less spicy. So I think it was blended at exactly the right proof for the nose. The nose is lesser now. But the palate filled out. Dang it. Okay. So I like the palate with a little more water, but I like the nose, the way it comes out of the bottle. Take it for what it's worth. I'm really glad you're here.